finally, I am making the Ainz video. I've wanted to make this video since the Achilles video I did, but I have been leaving it up to polls and whatnot since then, and this video is more or less covering the content in the novels and manga that lead up to where the anime is currently within Season 4, although I will be making a few references to the bonus novel and a few later novels. But I won't be going over much past where the anime is, as I've only read up to Volume 3 in the novels, with a few glances at later volumes which I've used for debates in the past. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I need to get out of the way is that Ainz, or as he used to be called, Momonga, was just a normal person living in Japan in the far-off future. The big skeleton is his avatar from the game Yggdrasil, so a lot of the terms or status effects I'll be showing you might seem a little off, especially for the novels in some cases. Ainz already being an undead comes with a multitude of abilities, starting off with immunity to critical hits, any mind-affecting ability including things like mind control and psychic powers, immunity to poison, sleep, paralysis, death, cold damage, acid, electricity, and any sort of effect which drains his energy, has a resistance to any sort of biological penalty, and does not need to eat, drink, sleep, or even breathe. He's able to see in the dark, and gets healed by negative energy. He does have weaknesses as to be expected, and I'll show them on the screen, but some of his weaknesses are nullified due to the multiple god/divine tier items which he wears. Like how he wears items which nullify his weakness to fire to the point he gains an immunity. He does have a few passive abilities like negative touch which he gains from his classes. I'll throw them up on screen, but just remember that these are video game classes and Ainz's build is all centered around necromancy and death magic. I'll touch up more on negative touch soon as it is explained through another skill. It would take an absurd amount of time to go over each and every spell, skill, and ability within Ainz's possession, as he knows over 700 spells and has a large amount of skills. He does also have an incredible amount of summonings, but I could probably make a separate video on how strong Ainz's summons are, so for now we're just going to stick with his main spells. The limit back in Yggdrasil for spells was about 200, but he had an ability called Dark Wisdom, which allowed him to gain more. And even before he became an undead with an enhanced mind and limited emotions, he already had a grasp on all 700 of his spells. One of his favorite spells being Grasp Heart. The name gives away what it does for the most part. It's a tier 9 spell. Spells in Overlord going from 1 to 10, then followed by super tier. Grasp Heart allows Ainz to literally crush the heart of his opponent and carries an instant death magical property. The spell is extremely useful considering that even if a target somehow resists it, they are stunned for a brief period. Ainz's build is so geared towards death magic that it's enhanced to extremely high levels. He possesses a multitude of teleportation spells such as Greater Teleportation, Dimensional Move, and Gate. Gate being a teleportation spell with no limits on distance and has a 0% chance of teleportation mishaps. Can conjure literal black holes which even swallow light from the surroundings, black holes apparently only needing to be the size of a marble to destroy planet Earth, spells which negate physical blows, a multitude of buffing spells which he can cast before a fight, which is where this funny meme comes from.
Breath of Magic Caster, Infinity Wall, Magic Ward Holy, Life Essence, Greater Full Potential, Freedom, False Data Life, See-Through, Paranormal Intuition. Reality Slash, which ignores durability by cleaving through space, True Death, a spell that negates resurrection, spells which counter detection and divination abilities,
paralysis, negative burst, which is basically the same skill we covered before, negative touch. With negative burst, it has an AoE effect. It emits negative energy on contact, whether it be through the AoE ability or physical touch. It weakens the strength and agility of those it touches and can't be healed from, as the troll he was fighting in this scene could not heal from it. Can dominate the minds of others to force them into submission, perfect unknowable, a stealth-oriented spell which erases all trace of the user and any sound they make, astral smite, which is an attack able to harm astral entities or those without a body, gravity maelstrom, which is a ball of condensed supergravity, the ability to resurrect beings from the dead. Ainz even commenting that,
"Accept it, and I will return Zariusu to life."
Is that possible?
Life and death are nothing more than states of being. To move someone between the two is a simple matter to one such as I.
With the manga, novel, and anime calling him the embodiment of death or things that are similar. He can even resurrect himself with magic at the cost of some levels, but does carry items which allow him to resurrect without penalties. Aura of Despair, which is a skill that has multiple levels to it. It basically causes anyone within his direct vicinity to feel complete and utter fear while also lowering their physical stats. Each level increasing its effectiveness until it hits level 5, where it causes instant death to things like trolls, which are able to regenerate from fatal wounds.
Silence, you filth! The trouble with fighting a troll. Aura of Despair. 5th tier.
Ainz's mere presence in general, causing humans and non-humans to think they're going to die and have their soul torn away and are forgetting how to breathe. Can literally stop time and has done so on multiple occasions and can do it without an incantation instantly at the start of a battle and does so extremely casually. The novels even saying he possesses items which grant him immunity to time manipulation and abilities which would hinder his movement. Can warp reality with spells and items when he casts the Wish spell. Said item being Wish Upon a Star, which is a ring that basically allows him to cast a wish without penalties. This can be used to make any wish that he desires, going so far as to being able to literally steal people's talents and abilities if he really wanted to. It can also, quote, make the impossible possible. The only thing that can counter Wish is a world item. Wish not being able to wish away effects induced by a world item, which we will cover shortly. Skills and spells like Grasp Heart, Aura of Despair and the like get strengthened through an item he carries known as the Staff of Ainz Ooal. It's a staff made to be their guild weapon and is considered to be on par with world items. I'll cover world items shortly, but for now we'll focus on the staff. The staff is something tailor-made to complement his abilities and enhances all of his abilities, even increasing his own stats from simply carrying it. It even enhances Aura of Despair to the point that it can even make the Guardians kneel in fear and be completely surprised at how strong said aura was. The Guardians of Nazarick having their own resistances and the like. Shaltir, who is among them, being an undead who also felt fear as the staff bypassed all their resistance to fear. The novel even saying the Despair aura shouldn't have worked, but was enhanced by the staff. So in short, the staff allows Ainz to bypass resistances with the ability to bypass immunities as well. The staff can also summon elementals, as each jewel within the staff is able to summon high-level elementals, like the fire elemental. And there's still so much more to go, but none of this compares to the most overpowered ability in his arsenal.
Skill! The core of all life is death! こまでだ。
It's a skill in which Ainz gets from the Eclipse class. It's a skill which enhances his death magic to the point that it bypasses all resistances and immunities to instant death. It is even able to kill Shaltir and her kin, who are immune to instant death. When Ainz casts it against Shaltir, it does some really wacky stuff and has some really wacky statements. I'll put it on screen, but I will read it out for you. In that instant, the world died. That was not a metaphor. It died. All of it. Einarjar, who'd been brandishing its lance before him, turned to white mist and began to collapse. It died instantly, despite being a construct and having no life. In the same way, all Shaltir's kin were enveloped in a power they couldn't resist and died off. That wasn't all. It brought death even to the lifeless air and made it impossible to breathe within a diameter of almost 250 yards. If there was anything trying to breathe and live in that area, its lungs would have been polluted by the dead air and it would have died from that. The soil also died. Everywhere within those 250 yards around Ainz instantly turned into a desert. In this world consisting of nothing but death, the only things that moved were Ainz and Shaltir. This was Ainz's ace move. The goal of all life is death was a move that strengthened spells and skills that had instant death as an effect. The effect strengthened by this skill would kill even an opponent with an ability that made them immune to instant death. And that is absolutely freaking wild. I would continue on with more, but I should continue to keep the video a decent length, so I'm going to quickly go over world items and how they work for the most part. World items which stand at the top of everything. There exist world items like Longinus, which erases the existence of the person it hits. In Yggdrasil, it deleted the player and all their data so they could not be resurrected unless it was by a world item. Depiction of Nature and Society, which traps people in a sealed dimension with no means of escape, and a few others which I'll post on screen. And something that's really crazy is that possessing a world item counters other world items. This is stated in the manga, anime, and novel multiple times throughout the series. In the bonus volume of Overlord, Ainz tanks an attack that utilizes wild magic, which is basically the New World's version of world item effects. He tanks wild magic capable of discorporating his soul. Discorporate, or however it's properly pronounced, basically meaning to be without a physical body, have an out-of-body experience, or be without a body. So he basically tanked an attack which would rip his soul from his body. The point I'm trying to get across is that even if there is an ability that is even remotely similar to a world item, Ainz can resist it by simply being in possession of a world item, as wild magic has similar effects to world items. With just that alone, Ainz can already survive existence erasure and being sent to a sealed dimension or blocked by a barrier that no one can escape from, as Albedo in Season 4 was able to break through a wild magic barrier with a world item while Pandora's actor, who is impersonating Ainz, couldn't, as he did not possess a world item. There's obviously way more to go over, but it's gonna take a long time to go through everything, so I'll now answer the question in the title of the video. How strong is Ainz? And where exactly does he scale on the tiering system? In terms of speed, he's well into the lightning speed category, as Shaltir can block lightning speed attacks. In the novels, when she fights Brain, she is able to block one of his techniques, which is stated in the novel to be as fast as a bolt of lightning, and she casually catches it with 2 fingers with absolutely no effort and even sees it as a joke. I don't have a calc for this feat at the moment, but it's easily well above lightning speed. If you go off the actual flash, as the novel says, flash, then you could argue light speed. But that's not the only statement for speed. There is the fact that Gazef has an attack called the which is stated to be light speed in the novel, and Brain believes his technique can beat Gazef. So that's a way you could support the flash of lightning thing being light speed. And Ainz obviously scaling way above Gazef and Brain, as Ainz can keep up with a bloodlusted Shaltir in combat. Ainz can also use Perfect Warrior to become a level 100 warrior and engage in combat using the items of his guild, which he can swap to, as we saw in the fight with Shaltir. Ainz also learning how to predict the flow of combat, and is also stated to be the strongest one in Nazarick. Although the actual strongest is one of Albedo's sisters, so I'd really recommend looking up a video on that. Now, attack potency is a little tricky. Maybe in the novels there's more that I haven't seen yet, but Ainz generally ranges from continental to multi-continental, with arguments of planetary, as he's able to create a black hole, which would theoretically be large enough to destroy the Earth, as a black hole only needs to be the size of a marble or a penny. But there are multiple statements about items being able to destroy countries, or that Ainz can bring death to an entire country, or how Ainz has battled bosses which can destroy the whole new world, and are threats to destroy the planet. So take that information as you will. There is the argument Ainz is extra-dimensional, as his inventory is said to be extra-dimensional space in the novels, and he can casually enter and pull things out of it, so there is that, I guess. You could also make a higher tier argument, as world items are fragments from the world tree or the Yggdrasil, and based off some arguments from Norse mythology, as there is a lot of Norse mythology throughout the game Yggdrasil, obviously. So you could somehow make an argument that since Ainz can utilize these items and tank their abilities and whatnot, and that he's fought enemies which can destroy the world tree, or that they can eat the leaves on the world tree, which are the world items, then that there's somehow some form of universal scaling with that. But generally the safest way to go for Ainz is anywhere from country to multi-continental to planetary. And this is what I know of, so sorry I don't have much in terms of AP and speed, but just remember that I have not fully read all of Overlord and have only glanced at other volumes. Maybe in the future I'll make a part 2 when I have more information. So I hope you all have a nice day, and I hope to see you all in the next video.